Hello, friends, and welcome to Friends in Fiction, four New York Times bestselling authors' endless stories. I'm Kristin Harmel.
And I'm Woodson Harvey. On behalf of all four authors of Friends in Fiction, including Mary Kay Andrews and Patti Callahan Henry, Kristin and I are excited to welcome you to a special episode of Friends in Fiction Behind the Book, a quicker deep dive into the life and work of one of our favorite authors.
Today, we are thrilled to welcome Susie Orman Schnall, who is the author of 5 novels about ambitious women. Anna Bright is Hiding Something, which is just out this week. We Came Here to Shine, The Subway Girls, The Balance Project, and On Grace.
A mother of 3 sons, Susie grew up in Los Angeles, graduated from the University of Pennsylvania, and now lives with her husband in New York. When she's not reading or writing, you can find her doing a crossword puzzle, playing around on Canva, which she's so good at. We actually need to ask her about that.
Jealous.
Or hiking to the top of a mountain. We are so happy to have her here with us today. Welcome, Susie.
Hi, I'm so
Susie.
happy to be here. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, we are so happy to have you. So this week marks the first week in June, marks the release of your 5th novel, Anna Bright is Hiding Something, which is such a great, tantalizing title. So Kirkus Reviews says fans of the Hulu streaming miniseries The Dropout about the scandal involving biotech company Theranos will enjoy this page-turner by Schnall, an entertaining suspense yarn about complicated, success-driven women. Can you tell us a little bit about the book itself and maybe where the idea of the book came from for you?
Yeah, so Anna Bright is Hiding Something is a propulsive and ripped from the headline story set in the fascinating world of female founders, as Kirkus said. And really, that Elizabeth Holmes story from Theranos was one of the inspirations for this book. And I have 2 main characters. One is Jamie, who's an ambitious young journalist who writes for a business website called Businessberry. And my second main character is Anna Bright, who is this enigmatic, very well known in the whole country founder of this product that's about to launch called Bright Spot. But as the title shows, Anna Bright is hiding something, and that is that she's committing fraud. So the story is about Jamie, through her reporting, finding out about the fraud, uncovering it, and it's a cat and mouse game between the 2 characters as Jamie works to uncover the fraud, and it's all on the eve of Anna's IPO. So there's definitely a ticking clock going on there, and but it's also about women and ambition, women in the workplace. Even though it centers a fraudulent female founder, it's really a love letter to all the female entrepreneurs out there who are building important businesses that are contributing to society, who are raising VC money against all odds and just working their tails off for the benefit of all of us.
Awesome.
That's so cool. Well, I love the premise for this book, and I was so intrigued by the whole Theranos scandal and, read all the books and watched all the things. And I don't know. I think it's so interesting too, because it's almost like they're doing the wrong thing, but maybe it's for the right reason, which I know is kind of tricky. So anyway, can you tell us about the research that you did to get the character of Anna just right?
Yeah. And I think what you just said, Kristy, is really true. And it's really important. And it's that, yes, there is definitely elements of narcissism going on with some of these founders, Elizabeth Holmes, Anna Bright, that brings us to a whole new level, but they were really trying to do the right thing and come up with this business that was going to essentially revolutionize the way that people live their lives.
Yeah,
so
that is to change the world, and
yes.
They just know that they're going to get there, and it's just not quite.
Yes. And so that was essentially the kickoff for my research, was really learning about this world of female founders. And I started off knowing a lot about it because that's why I was so interested in writing the book. And so I did more research on all of that. There's obviously a gazillion newspaper articles. I receive a newsletter every day called The Broadsheet, which is by Fortune. And it is so good. And it basically curates all of the news about women in business in a daily newsletter. And I highly, highly recommend it. But it covers all sorts of industries from, healthcare to software to entertainment to sports. And it's really about what women are doing at the highest levels in our country. And so I got a lot of inspiration from that. Then I had to do deep dives into the worlds of venture capital, funding, statistics, women get 2% of all VC funding, women founded businesses, and women of color get about a quarter of that 2%. So there's so many statistics that just riled me up and enraged me that led me to want to keep going. I did a lot of research on funding rounds, funding, A, B, all of those rounds of funding, about going to an IPO, all the steps for that. And I did research on women in journalism, because it's important to me, having written historical fiction, and I'm talking up the right trees here, you have to be authentic. And even though the book is set in the modern day, it's all about, staying true to the facts of what you're talking about, whether that's in history or whether that's in today. So I really, really was strict about doing all the research in all the right places. Oh, and I had to do a lot of research on the product that my founder, Anna Bright, invented, which is an intraocular lens. Kristy, you're like, right? It's crazy.
Oh man. Oh, that's so interesting.
A lot of research, and like in a very different way. I mean, it's not, the same kind of as because historical research is obviously really difficult, but I think doing this type of research, people can 100% tell you that you're wrong. Like, at least with something that happened in 1842, they can say you're wrong, but they weren't there.
It's so true.
And I had to be careful also, because I wanted to be very true to the facts of IPOs and venture capital and fundraising and running a business. But I also didn't want this to be a jargon-filled technical business book. It's novel, and it's meant to be very accessible and appealing to women who like fiction. And so I think from what I'm hearing from early reviews, people are like, wow, I learned a lot about business, but I wasn't overwhelmed by anything too businessy about it. So it's not a business book. It's not nonfiction at all. It's very accessible.
But that's awesome, though, to be able to send readers away with something they didn't know before, which they need to get fully immersed in the world that you've created. Exactly. So I think that's such a great balance to strike.
And I didn't want to baby them. I didn't want to be like, oh, well, they're not going to understand this, so I'm not going to, that's bull. Everybody has an element of knowing what this world is about.
Yeah, that is very true. So Kristy mentioned this a minute ago when she talked about being interested in the Theranos scandal, the Elizabeth Holmes scandal. And I felt the same way. And as soon as I read, the very first time I heard about this book, Susie, I just had this little goosebumps moment of ooh, this is a good idea. This is a great book idea. What do you think is it that fascinates us so instantly and fully about stories like this, like the Elizabeth Holmes Theranos scandal?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is women going against the conventions that we have been raised to follow. And I think, obviously, I'm in my 50s, so younger women are going to be like, oh, whatever. It's not like that anymore. And it still is in a lot of ways, because there's so much systemic patriarchy and all that. But I just think she's bold and brash, and she doesn't care that, she's arrogant and narcissistic, and those aren't necessarily good traits. But, and this is something I talk a lot about in the book, is the double standard for when women behave, are assertive and are bold and are blatantly and overtly ambitious, and how our society does not like that still. I mean, look at Hillary Clinton, right? Look at Kamala Harris. Look at all these women who people are like, I don't like her. There's something about her that I don't like. And that's because she's behaving completely antithetical to the way that we have been trained to think women should behave. So I think that's the number one reason we're fascinated by these women, especially those of us who aren't as assertive and bold, because, we are just like, wow, look at her go. I think we're proud of women for building these incredible businesses that, yes, they don't always work, but the fact that they built them in the first place, we kind of feel an affinity toward a woman who can accomplish that, the highest ranks of business. So, and then there's obviously the scandal aspect of it. I mean, who doesn't love a good scandal? I mean,
it's true.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. And I think with the Theranos thing too, it wasn't just pulling something over. It was having many of the most powerful men in the country on your board, on your side, on your team, and making them believe you in something that isn't true. I think that is it is fascinating to me. I will never get over it. it's fascinating. Okay. So, Susie, you mentioned this backstage, but so now you got to tell me, how did you and Kristin meet?
Okay, well, first, I think it's also important to say, Kristy, that you and I were like total baby authors together.
Yes. Oh, I'm going to do that next.
Okay, so the way that Kristin and I met is, so my background is in marketing and communications. I, worked for advertising agencies and nonprofits and websites and stuff. And then I had kids and I decided to stop working for a while. And then when I wanted to get back into the workforce, I started writing freelance for magazines and websites. And then I decided, well, maybe I should write a novel. And so me being a student, I decided, well, I have to take a course. And so I found a class through Media Bistro, which I don't even think exists.
I don't think it does. I don't think it does.
I was like, ooh, this is taught by a woman who's an actual author. Her name is Kristin Harmel. I went and I read all of her backlist. I'm like, yes, I'm going to take this class. So I signed up for the class and I was terrified because the idea of writing a whole novel, like who could do such a thing? So I convinced myself, well, just go to the first class and then you can decide. So I went to the first class with this wonderful Kristin Harmel and did the homework, and that's how I met Kristin. And she was such a support for me. And yeah, and it was such a great class. You were such a good teacher and just
thank you.
Cheerleader. And yeah, so we worked together and that became
I love it.
What year did On Grace come out?
2014.
Okay, that's what I thought because my debut came out in 2015, and you're right, we were like total baby authors together. Like our debuts were coming out like right at the same time, and we got to know each other. Anyway, I'm not surprised at all that Kristin was like cheerleading you and like.
That's so
very on
sweet.
brand. That's so cute, though. I love that you met that way.
Seriously, wait, what year was that? Do you remember?
That was 2010. 2009 or 2010.
So crazy. I think the class was like how to write chick lit, which isn't even a thing anymore, or like isn't even something we call it anymore, right?
Right.
Well, and Susie, and around that time too, I mean, you were wearing a lot of hats because you were also doing this incredible interview series called The Balance Project. And I have said this to you before when we've been doing these interviews, but I remember when you asked me to do like an interview for The Balance Project, and I was like, I have made it. Like, this is it. I am at yes. I was like, oh my gosh, I read all of them. I was like, this is like my dream, like to be on The Balance Project. And I was so excited. So thank you for having me. But can you tell people who don't know about The Balance Project and how it shaped you as a writer?
Yes. And that just completely rocked my world. You know, when you find out something about yourself that you didn't know or how you're perceived in a certain way, it's fascinating. So thank you for saying that, Kristy. So around that time, I was really struggling. I had 3 little boys. I was really struggling with how to be the type of mother that felt right to me while also being the type of professional that felt right for me. And I really wanted to succeed at both. And so I couldn't figure it out. Right. And at that time, the term work-life balance really was in vogue. It wasn't had as much disdain as it does now. But so I started asking women who I knew, women who had children who looked clean all the time, right? And who also had jobs that were commuting into New York City on a train. And which to me, I was like, wow, they commute on a train. And I started asking them questions. And it kind of evolved into me thinking, well, what if I just find women who I am impressed with, women who I think are, accomplishing a lot of things, maybe not doing it all, and ask them because I was so desperate to find out the secret. Yeah. So over a course of, I think it was 4 years, it started in 2014, I interviewed about 175 women via email. I asked them all the exact same questions, which I think was really part of the appeal of it because it was apples to apples. Every woman answered the same question. And what I learned from it and what really helped me move forward in my life is that nobody is doing it all. Everyone sacrifices something, and it's just a matter of choosing what you are willing to sacrifice: your marriage, your health, your partnership, your friendships, your religion, your commitment to the community. And so it was freeing for me because I realized, okay, it just helped me kind of deal with, shaping my life. And it led to my novel, The Balance Project. People think it was the other way around, that I wrote the novel and then started the interview series. But it was my interest in the topic and realizing that so many women are struggling with this that led me to want to explore it through fiction, which leads exactly to Anna Bright. There's a topic that hasn't been explored as much through fiction. And that's what led me to write that book too.
So cool and perceptive.
It really is. And now I know those all of those interviews are available on your website, and they really are so inspiring. I mean, I had read them before, but I looked at them again when Kristy and I were preparing to welcome you on today, and I was just struck by how many people you talked to, how different the answers were, how different the way these women walked through the world were. Like it was really, as someone who struggles with that myself, as I think all of us do, but really I feel like I struggle with that every day. Am I getting it right? Am I getting the balance correct? It was actually really helpful to me too to read back through some of those.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had to take most of them down. I think there might
Oh,
only
there's
be
still a
10 or
bunch
12
there.
up.
No, I think there are. It looked like there were a bunch. I
Oh,
clicked on a
really?
bunch of them. Yeah.
Okay, because when we redesigned the website for Anna Bright, it was really, they were so heavy, like they were
Oh,
slowing
yeah,
down
yeah,
the
yeah.
site. So we had
Yeah.
to, unfortunately, but
You've
thank
got some great ones up. I know the first one up there is Reese Witherspoon, which is so cool. So that's awesome. If Reese Witherspoon says this is how to balance life, I
right,
will listen to that.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm there. I'm there.
All right. Finally, Susie, where can readers find out more about you, your tour schedule, your new book, and the Balance Project?
So the best places are at my website, which is susieschnall.com. That has everything there under my events tab. It has all of my events coming up. And also Instagram. I post mostly on Instagram at Susie Orman Schnall. And I am doing events around the country in June and July, but not in a gazillion cities. So, but my launch event on Tuesday, June 4th is on Zoom with the Thursday authors, which I'm part of, and they're interviewing me. And so that will be available to anybody and it's free. And so I'd love for people to sign up for that.
Awesome.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Susie. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I love what you all do. I love your books. I love what you do with Friends in Fiction. And I'm just so honored to have been invited to participate. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank
And all of you
you.
out there, don't forget to tune in every Wednesday night here on Facebook or YouTube for brand new, longer form content about books, authors, and the reading and writing worlds. You can find everything about the Friends in Fiction universe, from the live show to the podcast, the newsletter to events, information about how to purchase our guest books to updates from the Friends in Fiction official book club on our website, friendsandfiction.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.